Straight Talk. Welcome to Straight Talk. Welcome to Straight Talk. Welcome to Straight Talk.
African president of the United States of America, President Barack Obama.
Good to see you. I just want to say everybody back home, right back at you. We appreciate you. You always give us straight talk.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Dion Dean. Today we're going to do a little talking about politics, what's going on in our communities. We know we have a governor's race coming up. We have the Chicago mayoral race that's coming up. We have other county races going on, and we have state representatives. We have a multitude of elections coming up on November 6th. First of all, here at Straight Talk, we want to tell you, if you vote early, it's the key. But vote. If you don't make it to vote early, make sure you vote. But tonight, we really want to just bring out some points. We want to talk about the top of the ticket here in the state of Illinois. We want to talk about two individuals who one who wants to continue to run the state of Illinois, and one who wants to replace the individual that's there and become the governor of the state of Illinois. We're talking tonight about J.B. Pritzker, and we're also talking about Governor Rauner. We want to hear, and we're going to play tonight some of the things that they're talking about doing. We're going to play tonight, and to give credit to ABC, we're going to play some of the debate that they had with one another. We think that it's important that you hear from them and what's going on. That's why we call it Straight Talk. We want to hear straight from them as to what they want to do. We want to hear straight from them some of the things that people are saying about them. You know, some of the allegations that are out there. Are they true? What are they going to say about those things? We're going to share that with you tonight. You'll get a chance to hear that. We're looking at two billionaires stating that they can run this state and do the best for this state. Myself, I just want to say, for me, I've had an opportunity to work with a couple of the governors in the state of Illinois. One is in prison for 14 years. We also have an individual who's running, who we heard a few things on tapes about, wanting to be involved with the state of Illinois. We also have heard that an individual, Rauner, had some issues with one of the head departments in the state of Illinois. So you're going to get a chance to really hear from them and hear why certain things have happened. And you're also going to get a chance to hear some of the things that they'd like to do to try and fix some of the broken things here in the state of Illinois. So we need you to tune in and ask others to tune in as well. So after this message, we're going to come back and we're going to get started. We'll see you in a moment.
Chicago, the Windy City, home of the tallest buildings in the world, the home of the Chicago Sound of Soul. One of the architects of the Chicago Sound was Carl Davis. He got his first million-selling single at VJ Records. He was known as the man with the golden ear, a musical guru, the Hitman. The Carl Davis Story.
And we're back. This has been a very, very busy, well, I would say a last month. It's been very busy. I had an opportunity to go out to Rich Township and hear from many of our Democrats who are running for office. And the greatest thing I like about this job that I have right now as Straight Talk host is we get to be, it's not about party, it's about really providing to the community what's going on. And so I had an opportunity to go to the Rich Township dinner. I heard the township committeemen speak. We had Tony Preckwinkle there. We had J.B. Prisker there. We had many other elected officials from the county to the state that were in attendance. It was a very well attended event. Many of them spoke about some of the things they wanted to do. And I just want to point to the governor. He spoke about things he wants to do. Mainly what he talked about is early voting and making sure that the blue wave is very strong and that we get out there and vote. I am a Democrat, but I'm also an open-minded individual, and I want to know who is going to do best for the state of Illinois and for Chicago. So as a host, I get to go and be a part of other things and hear from other candidates, which we happen to have a meeting in Harvey last week with Governor Rohner, who came out to speak to some of the things that he has accomplished. He feels he's accomplished, and some of the things he has passed in legislation as far as trying to make a difference for the state of Illinois. And so we had an opportunity. Many mayors were there, other elected officials. This was in Harvey. And so we heard from our governor. But now we want you to hear what's going on. So we have a tape that we're going to play so that you can hear some of the things that's been out here, the things about J.B. Prisker and the tax issues and him, and the toilet thing. I want to laugh about that, the toilet situation. And then we have the situation with the governor, with one of the departments, and it's kind of out of my head right now, but one of the departments where people were getting ill and some people, they said, passed away because of not being treated properly. So we're going to let you hear these things as well as some of the other ideas that they both say that they will be able to do best for us. So take some time, listen to this. Bring your children, bring those who are able to vote. Let's look at this clip and let's start making some decisions as to who we want, because we want a truthful person there. We want a person who's going to be ethical, not someone who's going to do something that's not right. And we want to have someone who can have real vision for moving the state of Illinois forward. So check this clip out, and when we get back, we're going to talk about it.
For the last, four of the last 9 governors have gone to prison in Illinois for illegal acts.
And we could have number 5 right here.
You both have had ethical questions raised about you. Mr. Prisker, your property tax breaks have come under scrutiny. And Governor Rohner, your administration's handling of the deadly Legionnaire's disease is under investigation by the Illinois Attorney General. What do these situations say about character? I want to start with Mr. Prisker. When does, and we've all seen the commercials, so we know what you have to say about each other. We want you to talk about your character. When does a scheme cross the line and become fraud? And is it enough to expect that when a candidate follows the rules, voters should be satisfied with that and not see ethical lapses? Talk about what the whole property tax scheme.
So this was, as you know, an internal memo that was leaked for political purposes. That was actually confirmed this morning in another paper. Leaked for political purposes, and it was about the problems that they're having in the assessor's office. And you know, I've said for a long time now that there are real flaws in our property tax system that we have to address. I had a renovation project ongoing, and that renovation project was stopped because it was unclear whether the home would be sold or put up for rent, and subsequently the renovation project was restarted. All the taxes that were assessed on the property were paid. But remember, this has been an effort by Governor Rauner, again confirmed this morning, to distract from his own property tax problem.
But I don't want to talk about Governor Rauner right now. I want to talk
Fair
about
enough.
whether or not taking advantage of loopholes. How does that reflect on your character that you were able to do that?
Yeah, but remember also that 54,000 people in Cook County seek to have their property taxes
Don't insult
reassessed,
the people of
including
Chicago
Governor.
way. That
Governor,
insults the people.
Look, you're on
You
the attack
cheated.
because you're
You
distracting from
committed
your own
fraud,
record.
and that's nothing
22
like
So
what
does
Walter's
it-
reassessments
doing.
you
Okay,
saw,
so the
illegal
question, the
homestead
bottom line
exemptions.
question is, are you saying that this does not reflect negatively on character?
No, and in fact, I am not saying that. I am telling you that the rules were followed here
Oh,
and
come
that there
on.
were inaccuracies in that report.
Okay,
How
fine. All right,
outrageous.
and Governor,
Wait, there were inaccuracies in the Cook County Inspector General's report.
Yes, I've said that.
okay, so Governor Rauner, at what point does a mishandling a crisis such as the outbreak of the Legionnaire's disease at the Quincy Veterans Home rise to the level of unethical or criminal? At what point?
The tragedy at the Veterans Home is one of a Legionella infection. It's heartbreaking. I went there immediately. Our team went there immediately.
6 days.
Took action every day to keep the veterans safe and the staff safe, and brought in immediately the
14
national
deaths.
experts and did what was necessary to mitigate the risks. And there's been hundreds of hours of testimony, review by outside groups, by the legislature, by the national experts at CDC.
Now a
And at
criminal
no
probe,
point,
Governor.
and at no point has anyone ever said there was any unethical or criminal behavior ever.
There
At
is
no
a criminal
point.
probe.
So why do you
And
think it's been investigated?
For political purposes. Mary, this is,
So-
let's focus. Please, let me answer
There's
this
a
question.
grand jury.
This is the most important question, because this election is about integrity and character. At no point has anyone, after countless hours of review, said there's any criminal behavior whatsoever.
There is a criminal probe
Mr.
ongoing.
Pritzker, please. Mr. Pritzker was investigated by a Democrat, not a Republican, a Democrat in the city of Chicago for months, reviewing emails, reviewing contractor reports, interviewing those
WBEZ
involved.
did a
And Mr.
year-long
Pritzker,
report
please,
on
Mr.
your
Pritzker,
failings
your
that led to 14
fraud is what
deaths.
this is about.
Cover
And
up
Mary,
14
let's
deaths.
focus. This is critically important. This election is about this issue. There was an investigation. He concluded, after the investigation concluded, tax fraud, mail
He's
fraud,
now talking about-
perjury.
Excuse
Okay,
He
this
wanted
is
to
not
make this
partisan.
about-
And Mary, let me finish the point, please. This is important. Within 24 hours, Lisa Madigan, with no
Governor
evidence
Rauner,
whatsoever of criminal behavior,
there
said
is a
she's
year's
launching a
worth of
criminal
reporting.
investigation, Mr. Pritzker.
A year's
I'm
worth
going to
of
let you
reporting.
respond to that. That would be only fair.
But
Thank you.
I'm not
There's a
finished
year's
answering the
worth of
question, Mary.
report.
Okay,
You've
let
been
him
going
answer,
on and on.
and then you finish, and we'll be
This is
moving
the
on.
core
Thank
issue,
you. There
Mary.
is
The
a
reason
year's
it's
worth of
crystal clear.
reporting, and
He
now
doesn't
they're-
want to
We
hear this
can't
answer.
hear
Yeah, excuse me, guys.
Criminal
Boys. We have to
Mary,
give
let
you.
me
No,
finish that
please,
criminal
please,
question.
please. We
Going
have.
on by
I do
grand
need-
jury.
Mr. Pritzker, please.
Let him finish,
You
and then we
you have
will
to take
definitely
turns here a little bit,
Give
okay?
you an opportunity to respond.
This is the core issue. So within 24 hours, with not a shred of criminal behavior evidence, none, and no one claiming that there was any, she announces a criminal investigation of Quincy. Why? So that you guys in the press are talking about that to distract from the real criminal behavior, the real fraud that Mr. Pritzker has committed.
Okay.
That
Okay,
shows how
let's-
rigged
let's-
our
let's-
system
we're
is and how
done.
broken our system is.
Mr. Pritzker, please respond.
Thank you. 6 days went by, 6 days before anybody told anybody else about the death and the sicknesses
No criminal
at
behavior whatsoever.
May I
Okay,
finish?
I'm gonna
Governor
let him
Rauner's
respond.
administration took 6 days to let people know. People got sick. 70 people have gotten sick. 14 people have died as a result of the mismanagement, fatal mismanagement at the Quincy Veterans Home. And there was a cover-up. There are emails that were uncovered. In fact, in FOIA requests, they were blacked out because he didn't want to let people know what really was going on, which was an effort to cover their butts, to make sure that they weren't held accountable. They wanted to blame it on Senator Tammy Duckworth, who hadn't been there for years, and they wanted to blame it on the weather. That is what the governor has been saying about what is now a criminal probe into what happened to 14 people who died because of his fatal mismanagement. It took 3 years to finally deal with it.
Well,
Governor Rauner,
we thank you for that
3 years.
response. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Tom Frisbee.
I have two related questions. I'd like to ask each of you one question. For Governor Rauner, I'd like to ask you this. The Sun-Times ran a series called 31 Bullets that laid out a number of reforms that could reduce gun violence. My question for you is, what specific laws will you champion if you get a second term to reduce gun violence in Illinois? And with that, I'd like to ask you, do you intend to sign the bill that would provide for state certification of gun shops, which has been rewritten to address objections that you had to an earlier version? And for Mr. Pritzker, I'd like to ask you this. What particular stiffer sentences would you support? What specific sentences for people who are repeat gun violators? So can you start?
I signed a 72-hour waiting period for gun sales. I signed a bill to take guns away from those who are adjudicated mentally ill or dangerous to themselves or others. And I proposed, but the legislature did not act on, I proposed a ban on bump stocks and trigger cranks. I proposed resource officers be made available and funded for every school that would like one. I proposed a death penalty for anyone who commits mass murder or murders a police officer. And I proposed truth in sentencing so that violent offenders aren't let back out on our streets early. The real answer to your question, though, is not gun regulation. Oh, and by the way, I would not sign the gun dealer regulation bill that you're talking about. All it will do is cause unemployment and businesses to close and not increase public safety. The real answer to your question is jobs. The best way to stop a gun is with a job. We have brutally high unemployment on the south sides and west sides of Chicago, brutally high unemployment in many other communities in the state. Why? Because Illinois is hostile to business. We're not growing fast enough. Why? Taxes, corruption, and regulation. We're fixing that in our administration.
Governor Rauner, we'll get to that issue, but we're sticking to guns here. Mr. Pritzker, you want to respond?
Well, first of all, I would sign that very same gun dealer licensing bill that the governor vetoed, because I believe that you need to have background checks on people who are holding all of those guns, who are selling those guns. I believe you need to ban bump stocks and have a governor who's fighting for that and to fight against high-capacity magazines.
Madigan did not pass that.
High-capacity magazines and bump stocks. You've done nothing to lobby for those things. And on the 72-hour waiting period, remember that that bill was passed and the governor mandatorily vetoed it, introducing the death penalty again, just because, as you saw, the Illinois State Rifle Association actually backed those amendments. Why? Because they don't want the 72-hour waiting period, because it was designed to kill the bill. But so much pressure was visited upon the governor that he ended up signing a clean 72-hour waiting period. I think that we need to make sure that we're getting the illegal guns off the streets, that we stop the trafficking from other states, which is coming in and causing many of the deaths in Chicago.
Okay, but I asked you specifically about what measures you would support, what specific stronger sentences for repeat gun violators you would support.
Well, we need to make sure and we hold people accountable. I'm not a big fan of mandatory minimums, but I believe that people who are repeat offenders need to be held accountable by the judges that they're in front of. Very important to me, though, for everybody to recognize that gun violence across the state of Illinois has gone up in the very same period that Governor Rauner refused to compromise on a budget. So many of the violence interruption services, human services that people have as their last vestige of connection with civilization have gone away. I mean, mental health services and so on.
But again, what specific, you said you're not a fan of mandatory minimums.
I'm not.
Legislation was being worked on for presumptive minimums. Would you support that?
Look, again, I'm not a fan of mandatory minimums.
But that's not
and I
mandatory,
think-
that's presumptive.
I understand, but I'm telling you that
Is
what
that a
we
no?
need to make sure happens is that all the circumstances are taken into account.
Okay.
But look, people who are repeat gun
I know.
offenders, they should be held accountable.
I know then, to
Okay,
presumptive.
so let's move on to another question. Our partners here, are the AARP Illinois, and they sent us a
And we're back. I know you were looking at the clip, and I was looking at it along with you. Again, we here at Straight Talk want to give it to you straight. And I think it is extremely important that we have an opportunity to hear from the individuals who want to hold office, especially the office that is at the top of the ticket in Illinois. And then I do want to do a correction because I said earlier that this was from Channel 7, but this is the Chicago Sun-Time editorial board that hosted the debate that you were just watching. So I just wanted to put that correction in. But to get back to it again, it's extremely important for us to hear tidbits of what's going on. Many of us don't get a chance to see debates because we're busy. We have children, our jobs have us traveling and doing all sorts of things. And so we miss out on hearing from the candidates themselves. So we here at Straight Talk wanted you to at least get a little bit of some of the crucial points that are always being brought out by the media and having an opportunity to hear from these candidates and how they answered them. So we're hoping tonight that you had that opportunity. Look at that. There are some other debates that I believe is one or two other debates that took place with both of the gubernatorial candidates, one for re-election and one for election, which is Roner, the governor, and also J.B. Pritzker. Please do your research. Let's make educated decisions when we put these people in the highest office of our state. And we need to know if they can work with legislators, the legislative body, to really get things done for us, especially in the black community, because our communities are suffering so much. We have lack of jobs. We have a higher unemployment. We have a higher mental health issue going on. We have a higher murder rate going on in our communities than any communities around the state of Illinois. When we look out our doors every single day, I can guarantee you, if you live in the far south side of the city of Chicago and the south suburban areas, you're seeing homes that are foreclosed on. You're seeing people who have lost their homes due to high taxes, and we're continuing to be taxed out of our homes because of the fact is, most of these villages and cities and the towns that we live in, they have to increase their water rates. They have to go out and when they do inspections, they have to find ways to make more revenue. So we're getting ticketed more for fines on our houses and fines for our trash and on our vehicles, and all these things we're continuing to be hit with as far as more money coming out of our pocketbooks in our communities. Because why? We don't have enough business in our community. The African American businesses in our community is little to none. Little to none. Every store we go to, outside of it being hair salons, barbershops, daycare centers in our communities, which is the bulk of our business, is someone else coming into our community, making money in our communities, and leaving our communities every single day. Therefore, our dollars are not being recycled back into our communities. We have to stop that trend. We need to turn that around. We need a governor who's going to speak to us about helping black business in our community, helping us become self-efficient for our own communities. Not that we don't want other people to come in and be a part of what we're doing. We welcome other ethnic groups, other people to come into our community every single day. If we're able to have our own business, we definitely want you to shop with us. Because why? We shop with you. We leave our communities every day, most of us traveling miles away, which takes gas to put into our vehicles to get there. And you know how much gas is. It's steadily on the rise. To go to those communities, to spend money for food, to spend money for clothing, to spend money primarily, just to put it out there, a lot of us who can send our kids to better schools, it's not within our own districts. We're going into other communities because we want a quality education for our children. We want them to be able to go to schools that are diverse, that have an opportunity for them to ready them for the world. So when they go out, they're able to say, hey, I've been around all walks of life and I understand different mindsets, different situations, what affect them as well as what affects themselves personally. All of that makes a difference. So we need a governor who's going to get in there and talk to these issues that are affecting us every day. We don't need individuals that are, because of a political party coming, whatever, you're Democrat, Republican, coming in and saying, this is the chosen candidate, this is who you should vote for. I ask the people of Illinois to do your due diligence, do your homework, find out where the next debate is going to be before November 6th, if there's any more left. Find out where your state representative, your senators, and ask them questions as to who they feel they can better work with. I mean, I know we're talking about the blue wave, and some people are talking about a red wave here in Illinois, especially in the red wave down in the downstate areas. But I'm saying to you today, whomever we put in now is going to have a tremendous effect on our communities for years to come, countless years to come. When we need the right person there. So on television, as a journalist and speaking to you as a host, I can't say who I'm voting for. I know in my heart who I'm voting for, but I have to be real with you and I have to tell you as the people, do your homework, make an educated decision, talk with your family, talk with your neighbors, speak to the people not at work, I don't want anyone getting fired, but after work, during breaks, at lunch, talk about what's going on here in our state, because it's going to make a difference. And so that's pretty much what I want to lay on you. We have too much crime going on in our communities. And now the crime has went across borders. It's happening in all communities. So now everybody's stepping up and everyone is up in arms as to what do we do. The meth situation is very high. We need to touch base on those things. We need someone who's going to give us real answers, real solutions, and who's going to be able to work bipartisan, as a bipartisan individual to work with the state representatives and our senators that are in the state of Illinois. So I'm hoping that you got something from what you've been able to see here tonight, the little clips that we have, and it shows character. If you really look at it, you can see some character in where they're going and what these individuals are about. So really look at it. It's not a whole lot, but it's something to feed on, and hopefully it helps you out in making some decisions. So we do thank you tonight, and I thank you personally tonight for watching tonight's show. And let's make sure we vote early. But I say before you vote, make sure you do your due diligence and research on these candidates. And I say when actual voting day comes, if you have not voted early, make sure you vote. We have many ways now. You can mail in your votes, you can early vote, all of those things work. Talk together, think together, let's make a difference for our community. I want to say to you, God bless you, and good night.